guys? It is Daniel Wright, and you are here listening to another episode of Paving the Way. And man, I appreciate you joining in today. 108 episodes in. I just love counting up on how many more we're accomplishing. They say, I think I said it on a couple episodes ago, that less than a certain percent of people ever upload like 3 or 5 podcasts. And here we are at 108. And you've probably stuck with me through those 108. Or you might be brand new to this. If you're brand new, well, welcome. Happy to have you. And if you're not brand new, happy to have you back. So, guys, today is going to be one of the kind of short, sweet, to the points for you. We're going to be talking about what to do when it gets hard. It's going to get hard for everybody, no matter what journey you're on, whether it's a personal development, business development, anywhere in between. It's going to get hard. And I can promise you one thing. They say that there's two certain things in life, and that's death and taxes. Well, the third promise is if you're trying to do anything, of any significance, it's going to get hard, regardless of where you're at in life, regardless of where you came from in life, regardless of where you want to go in life. It will get challenging. So let's dive into it today, guys. Let's go. All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. Appreciate you again for tuning in today. So, kind of, if you saw last week's or last episode, came out last Saturday, it was a Q&A format, right? And Kelsey joined me, which all y'all seem to love it when Kelsey gets on the podcast. I know I love having her on here too. Um, but unfortunately, her time is limited, and she can't make every single one of them with me right now. But we were talking after last week because we did have a blast doing those Q&As. Granted, those questions were kind of fun, lighthearted questions from our team here at the office. We got 4 more of those coming to you probably sooner than later, so keep an eye out for those. But we wanted to start trying to kind of do like that as like a regular thing, of like a Q&A thing where Kelsey's on it with us. Maybe we do it on Saturdays where it's a little bit more weekend material, easier listening, things like that. But we could do it in a way that's, it can be lighthearted questions, and it could maybe be more tactical questions. If someone's new in business, or, wants to ask questions about what it's like for us working together as husband and wife. Granted, we're still pretty new to it, so we can't necessarily give a lot of vetted experience, but we can at least give our perspective. Um, but no, we talked about it, and we definitely want to try and push, you guys as our audience, as our listeners, to send us some questions. You can send them as a video, kind of like you saw in the last one, or we can play it live on the show, and then answer it from there. Or you can send them in a written format, and we can, Kelsey can kind of read them off. We can discuss them, go over there. But we want some questions. It doesn't have, like I said, it doesn't have to be super specific, or it doesn't have to be, just business or tactics. It can be some fun questions, and we can talk about them. But we want to get some more interaction with you guys. So that is something we definitely want to push. We want to ask that of you guys to start sending us some things. Send them to us in the DM, drop them in the comments, whether you're on YouTube, on LinkedIn, whatever it might be. Drop them in the comments. We'll watch them. Send them to me directly. Send them with a pigeon care. I don't give a crap. Just send some questions, some things that you want to hear from us. Because like I've told you guys time and time again, this is something that I do, that we do for you guys. It gives us an opportunity to use our platform, use social media, use the old interweb to get our message out there, to try and help other people, try and pave the way for those that are coming along behind us and alongside of us. And we really want to try and give more back, and I think that's a way that we're going to be able to do that. So that is my ask of you to start this episode out, is go ahead and just send us some questions. We'll try and make this kind of a thing that we do every week or so, and get a Q&A topic going, and give you guys some more value. But to get into the topic today, it's going to get hard. I promise. There's a good buddy of mine who's in the industry, in the pavement industry, that we talk, about every week, every couple weeks or so. We chat, catch up, and he is early on in his journey, and he knows who he is. He listens to these. He always tells me he listens to them, but he very rarely ever comments on them. So you might want to comment on this one, my man. But nonetheless, we were talking the other day, and he was truthfully just expressing some challenges and some frustrations of being a year into the business. Um, the biggest challenge he has right now is finding help, right? So finding people to work on the team to help get the jobs done, so he can help, be delivering on promises made to clients. And I feel-good friend, not a feel-good friend. And I very bluntly told him, I said, because he was talking about that, he doesn't know if he wants to do this forever, and how long he's going to be able to do this for, yada yada yada. And I just responded and said, hey man, I said, when it gets hard is when most people quit, and that's why there's way less competition the higher you go. And he responded, he's like, well, it's not that it's hard work, it's that finding people, like that's the challenge, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, and so on and so forth. And I said, yeah, man, I said that is a version of like that's a thing that's hard that you're having to deal with on a regular basis. You're in a labor intensive industry that's going to require labor and people who want to go out and sweat and get hot and dirty and beat up and whatever it might be. And it's going to be hard. It's something that truthfully up until the last couple of years, out of the last 8 in this industry, that I haven't even had a consistent crew. I mean, I think this past year was the first time we actually retained a full crew through the winter time. And it's just, you have to kind of go through those hard times. And so I was just explaining to him, I said, it's going to get hard. I said, it's just going to be something that no matter where you are in business, whether you're starting out as the one-man band and you're trying to find 1 or 2 helpers for the season, or you're an established company with 100 people on your team, there's going to be different levels of hard. So I wanted to kind of dive into 3 things that get hard from business development. So this is going to be more business related that come to mind for me. So the first one is just that, it's finding help. Well, what can you do about finding help? The biggest thing that I can tell you from my experience is that you have to actually be somebody that the person you're looking for would want to work with. And that's the hardest part to realize that. And it took me a long, long time to realize that the reason I wasn't attracting the right people is because I wasn't the right person to begin with. I wasn't the right type of leader. I didn't talk to people the right way. I didn't respect them the right way. I didn't have a big enough vision that really encompassed their dreams within mine. And so you have to become the right person to attract the right people. So that's the first thing you can do. In addition to that, when it gets hard for finding help, and our friend Brian at Top Contractor School, he says a lot, if you don't have a recruiting problem, you have a marketing problem. If you're not showing the world what your company is, who you are, if you're a one-man band or a one-woman band, if you're not showing the world who you are, what you stand for, and where you're wanting to go, how is anyone going to want to get on board? If they have no idea who you are, they might see a video every now and then of the work that you do or whatever it might be, but who are you? Who is the person that they would be coming to work with, that would be giving them the direction, and that truthfully they could potentially be entrusting their future with? Who are you? Put it out there. This is why part of the reason why we're 108 episodes in. And there's people like yourself who watch this, every week, twice a week when we put them out, Wednesdays and Saturdays, and you guys watch it. And there's that little part of you in your mind that says, man, if an opportunity ever came about with him or with their company, I'd probably be interested in it. Or vice versa. If, something says, man, I'm really happy right now, but if for some reason something happened and I found myself looking for something new, I like where that company's going. I like the people they have on their team. Not just from this podcast, right? But from our company. If you look at our social media from our company standpoint, we put our team out there. And that's something I've explained, to the whole company this year at our company meetings, is that with our media presence continuing to grow, with having our in-house media manager, Randy, that you guys have seen on the show before, with having him here, I told everybody, I said, guys, where we're going and where we're growing, we're going to need more people. Well, we have a team that we like, that we respect, that we enjoy working with. So wouldn't it make sense that we want to have more people like the ones that we have? Yes. How are we going to attract more people like the ones that we have? We show the world who we have. Because that way, when people are watching our content, when they're watching who we are on social, they're going to say, man, like I'm kind of like that guy, or, oh, I'm like that girl, or I have the same interests as that person. They're going to relate and identify to you and to your team, and you're going to attract more of them. And that's one thing that I've had to really learn is, for me personally, I've always struggled with finding a good salesperson. Sales has been the last thing that Daniel Wright has really hung on to tight when it comes to like the day-to-day operations of Proline. And we've got Ben on board. You guys have seen Ben. You've seen him on our social. I think he's due to come on one of the shows here soon and talk about one of the questions he wanted to ask me from the Paving show a while back. But
So he's been on board. He's been here for, 2.5 months now, going on 3, and he's doing great. He's been growing a lot, and we've been really pushing and grinding and putting him on the fast track to really start taking over a lot of this day-to-day sales things with the company. But one of the things that I was running into when I've been struggling in the past to find a salesperson is I've been trying to find people who are like me. Well, me as the owner and the founder of the company has a certain way of thinking about things that if another person comes in and tries to think the same way as me or do the same things I'm doing, that's going to cause some friction, right? In a company, you have an organizational chart for a reason. Just like the presidency, you have a cabinet. You have the person who's in charge of casting the vision and being the spokesperson or whatever it might be, but you also have to have a team of leaders around you who are willing to, listen to where it wants to go, challenge things when it needs challenge, but also support when it needs supported. If you find, if you have two visionaries in a company that are trying to push and grind and cast the vision of where everybody wants to go, well, they're eventually going to start either pulling against each or away from each other or butting heads with each other. And that's going to cause nothing but chaos. So for a long time, I was trying to find people who were like me, who wanted to be that more entrepreneur mindset, who wanted to be that, that vision caster and things like that. And I realized, I said, I don't need somebody who's me. I'm me. I fill my role here. I need somebody who wants to do something and fill my weaknesses, which would be like outbound sales or building a sales process and so on and so forth. So I started to kind of change my mentality towards how I look for people. JJ, our operations manager, you all are familiar with him. He's fantastic at running the operations team because he handles it. He's in alignment with the vision that I have for the company, but he's able to execute it in a way to really rally up the guys in our operations team to really just bring out the best in them day in and day out. So it's not always about finding somebody who's exactly like you to join your team. It's about finding somebody who's the perfect fit for the position you're trying to fill. And that can get challenging. You're going to have to weed through some people to get through to the good ones. The next thing that's going to get hard, more specifically this time of year, especially if you're in the pavement industry, regardless of where you're at in the country, is going to be your pipeline, your workload, your backlog for the year. Everybody starts getting a little bit concerned this time of year. Oh my gosh, we hired new people over the winter. We bought new equipment at the end of last year. We've got all these things to pay for. I need work. And it's something that I think every year, every business owner goes through to kind of try and, figure out like, oh my gosh, we're going to make it or are we not? And as you continue to grow, you start to learn the cycle of the business. And right now we're in the cycle being mid-March or so. We're in the cycle that for our industry, a lot of our projects start getting released or approved or signed contracts around this time of year. It's typically end of March, beginning of April is when we start seeing an influx in approvals for work to be completed for the season. And so what can you do if you're concerned about your backlog or your, what kind of work you have in the pipeline? One of the big things you can do, honestly, guys, is just stay in contact with your clients. Have a system and a process in place that sets up and makes it easier for you to really make sure that you're reaching out to them. You're touching base with them. Saying, hey, Joe, I know we talked, last month about this project. I know it's, kind of going through budgets and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, it is starting to get close to springtime. So we do start, this is when our season starts to pick up. I want to make sure that we can get you a spot on our schedule and you don't slip through the cracks. So you have those systems and processes in place internally to make sure that you're staying in touch with them. I can't tell you guys, for the longest time, I was the type, I sent an estimate off and that's the last it was. I never talked to them until they either called back and gave an approval or every now and then they respond and say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. But that was the only contact I really had because I didn't have a follow-up process. So if you're concerned about that backlog, if you're concerned about what's in your pipeline, make sure that you have a clean, clear, and precise follow-up process to touch base with your clients, that you have estimates out there, that you can reignite old clients, things like that. And the third thing that I can tell you about is that you're going to face that's going to get really hard as you grow is going to be the difficulty of finances and cash flow. That is something that every contractor that I've ever talked to, the ones that are running 20, 30, 40, $50 million plus companies, all the way down to the ones who are just starting out and it's their first year, have all faced challenges. Everybody faces challenges because you're going through growth spurts, you're going through slow times, you're going through busy times, and it is massively difficult. I can tell you that last year we brought on a gentleman, his name is Ryan, as a fractional CFO. And by what that means, he's kind of, works with us more of a consultant basis, but yet he's in kind of our day-to-day type stuff. Like he's in stuff monthly and checking, checks and balances and reconciling, works with our CPA to make sure that everything is getting, recorded properly, set up properly, so on and so forth. And I tell you what, guys, I wish I would have had this person on our team years ago. As soon as I could afford to have somebody on like that, I would have brought them on and brought them on quick. And I would have got them deep and involved in everything that we're doing. Because the more clarity we have with the financial cycle of our business, the easier it is to make decisions. The easier it is to make decisions, the more at peace you can be with the operations of your company, right? For the longest time, I looked at things very simply. It was just about, okay, well, here's what our P&L looks like. Here's what our spread report looks like. Here's our balance sheet. Well, all that looks pretty good. I guess we're all right. And we just keep on trucking. And then this time of year, right, after we're coming out of the winter time into the springtime when we're gearing up to get going, and all of a sudden we're like, man, cash flow is not where we want it to be. It's an age-old story that I think Larry Janeski talks about it. He says, many contractors are very rich and wealthy at the end of the year, but by the time winter time dries up, they're all broke and begging for work. And that's not a position that you want to be in. Your clients don't want you in that position. Your peers don't want you in that position. Your vendors don't want you in that position. And your employees sure as heck don't want you in that position because they can sense desperation. They can sense uncertainty. So the more that you gain clarity on how the finances of your company works, the easier it is going to be for you to make decisions on a day-to-day basis. And when it gets easier for you to make those decisions on a day-to-day basis, the more at ease you will be operating your company. The better leader you're going to be, the more present you'll be able to be. So get a hold of the finances, understand how it works, what goes into them, how it works, how the cash flow cycle works for your particular business and your area, whatever it might be, and just really understand that stuff inside and out. So guys, like I said, those are the three big hards that you're going to encounter as a business that is trying to grow. It's going to be finding people, it's going to be your finances, and it's going to be your backlog and your pipeline of work. All of those things have solutions to them. You just have to figure out what those solutions are because you need to figure out what your objective is. Finding people. Okay, I need to recruit people. For what position? Labor, sales, admin, whatever it is. Okay, what do I need to do? Who do I need to put in place to attract that type of a person and do it? That last part, guys, is the hardest one, is just to do it. So when the things get hard, dive into why they're difficult. What's the problem stopping you? What is the obstruction? Once you dive into that, you find out the solution, you have to take action. There is no choice about it. It's just something that you're required to do. So guys, I want to pass along that message. Like I said, it came from a conversation I had with a good friend of mine this week. I know this small business game is hard, guys. It's a challenge. It's a grind. It takes a lot out of you. And truthfully, it ain't for everybody. Because if it was, everybody would be doing it, right? So I've got faith in you. You keep the faith in yourself. We'll make sure to keep grinding on this stuff. Like I said earlier, guys, send us in some questions, some topics you guys want us to talk about. We'll get Kelsey on the show. We'll talk about them, and we'll have a good time. So until next time, guys, take care.